It was a quiet evening in the small town of Willow Creek, a place where everyone knew everyone else, and the pace of life seemed untouched by time. People walked along the streets with a sense of familiarity, greeting each other as they passed. The streets, lined with old oak trees, bathed in the soft light of the setting sun, were peaceful. However, beneath the calm exterior, something was brewing in the shadows. Detective Emma Hayes had just returned to her office after a long day of paperwork. She wasn't expecting anything unusual that evening, not in a town like Willow Creek. But as she sat down, a call came in. It was a tip-off. An anonymous voice, barely above a whisper, claimed that something terrible was about to happen at the old train depot. "Who is this?" Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The caller hung up, leaving only a sense of dread hanging in the air. Emma had learned to trust her instincts, and something about that call felt real. She grabbed her jacket and set off for the depot. As she approached the area, the air grew heavy with an unsettling quiet. The depot, once a bustling hub for travelers, had long since been abandoned. It was an eerie, desolate place, perfect for hiding something sinister. Emma stepped lightly, her eyes scanning the area. The platform was empty, save for the faint squeak of an old metal sign swinging in the breeze. She approached the entrance where a single light flickered. Suddenly, she heard a sound, a muffled thud, followed by a low voice. She froze, listening intently. "What do you mean, it's too late?" a man's voice demanded, filled with anger. I don't want any part of this," a second voice pleaded, tremulous. Emma slowly moved toward the sound, making sure to stay out of sight. Through a gap in the rusted wall, she could see two figures. One man, tall and muscular, held a woman by the wrist. She was struggling, her face pale with fear. Emma's heart raced. She recognized the man, the local businessman, Robert Calloway. He was a well-known figure in town, always charming, always smiling. He had a reputation for being involved in shady dealings, but nothing concrete had ever come to light. "Let go of her," Emma whispered to herself, but she knew that rushing in would only make things worse. The woman, frantic now, managed to pull away from Robert's grip only to trip and fall. Her scream echoed through the empty depot. Without thinking, Emma stepped forward, but before she could react, Robert turned, his sharp eyes catching sight of her through the shadows. He smirked, as if he had been expecting her all along. Well, Detective Hayes. I was wondering when you'd show up," he said coldly. His voice was smooth, but it held a dangerous edge. The woman scrambled to her feet, trying to escape, but Robert's eyes never left Emma. "You're too late," Robert continued, his voice low and filled with menace. "This was never meant to be seen. Now I have to take care of you, too." Emma's hand hovered near her holster, but before she could pull her gun, a loud sound rang through the depot, the screech of metal on metal. The train tracks, once forgotten, suddenly began to tremble. A train, an old, rusted one that had long been out of use, appeared from the darkness, its headlights blinding. "Get down!" Emma shouted, instinctively pulling the woman to the ground just as Robert lunged toward her. The train passed by with a deafening roar, blocking Emma's view for just a moment. When it finally passed, Robert was gone. The woman was still on the ground, her face pale but alive. Emma pulled her to safety and dialed for backup. "We need an ambulance and a team at the old depot. There's been a crime," she said, her voice steady but urgent. The woman, still shaking, looked up at Emma with wide eyes. You saved me." Emma nodded, but her mind raced. The train, the strange appearance of it. There was something off about it. The whole thing felt like a setup. Robert had been expecting her, and the train had been the perfect cover. The backup arrived shortly, and Emma walked over to the tracks. She bent down, running her fingers over the rusted metal. Something about the scene didn't add up. The train had been timed too perfectly, almost as if it had been orchestrated. As the ambulance took the woman away, Emma stood on the platform, looking out into the night. She knew this wasn't over. Robert Calloway was a man with secrets, and he wouldn't stop until he buried them all. But Emma was determined to uncover the truth. She wasn't just a witness, she was a hunter. And in Willow Creek, no one was safe from the shadows lurking just beneath the surface,